shepherd's pie is going to have a nice creamy mashed potato topping, and in order to get that going, we have to peel a bunch of potatoes. It's about 2 pounds of potatoes for 4 servings. And because we have such a large group with us today, we're going to peel about 6 pounds. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to have Mikhail finish peeling these, and as soon as one's done, I'm going to chop it up into cubes and toss it in this water here. By chopping the potatoes down into smaller bites, we can make sure that it boils faster, and it's also easier to test it when it's ready. You stick a fork in one of the cubes and you can tell whether it's soft or not. Alright, once you have a nicely peeled potato, what you can do is go ahead and half it this way. You want to put it on its flat side. You want to half it again. Again, on the longer flat side here. Half it one last time, and then cut little cubes of potato here. And be careful, it might stick to your knife because of the starchiness. You want to be careful to handle all these different ingredients nice and gentle because you don't want to cut yourself. So once you have these nice long slabs here, you're going to go ahead and cut little cubes. They don't have to be, completely the same, but you want to get them to the, to a similar size so that when they boil up, they're going to cook at the same time. Otherwise, you're going to have some that are really mushy and some that are really firm. Your goal is to get it as uniform as possible, really similar. And once you do that with all your potatoes, you're going to be ready to boil. Just add some salts to the pot before you do so, and the potatoes are going to go ahead and absorb that flavor. It's going to help make your mashed potato topping a lot tastier. After your potatoes are done, the next step is to get all the vegetables prepared for your skillet. And that's going to include your onion over here, your carrot, your parsley, and a bunch of other stuff to go along with your meat. So as you're peeling your carrot, you want to make sure that you're peeling away from your body. And if you have a trash can or if you have a sink at home with the garbage disposal, you can go ahead and peel into that. You want to go ahead and peel until the first layer is all gone, like so. Looks good to me. And then you're just going to chop the carrot little rounds, like when you chop up some banana to put into your cereal, kind of like that, little pieces like that. And if you don't like big chunks of carrot, you can chop those up in half as well. So these are eventually going to go into the skillet with your meat, your onions, and your gravy that we're going to show you how to make in just a minute. Thanks.
So we have here the potatoes. We're waiting for them to boil. So what you want to do, you want to make sure you keep an eye on them because you don't want it to boil over because that's never fun. So yeah, we've got some water in here, got the potatoes already in it, and we've got it on high, and we're just playing the waiting game now. So next we're going to cut an onion. It's really easy to do. Let me show you how you do it. So first you're going to cut off, you have the roots, and you have the other top part. So we're going to cut that part off first. You can see we got all the layers. Next, cut it in half one more time. Save that part. Now we can peel off the brown part, which you don't want. So it's really easy to do. And if you're really sensitive to onions, you might want to get a fan or soak them in water first. So now we're going to dice this, and I'm going to show you a real easy way how to do that. So you just take it like this, and you can do it as thin or thick as you want. And so it's going to be in a casserole, so I'm not going to do it too thin, but just cut it like this. Make sure you keep the shape. And get all the way until the end like that. Now we take it, go at a diagonal angle like this, watch your fingers, and you get nice little uniform squares like that. It's very easy to do. There you go. So here we go with the other half here. I'm going to peel it again. And so a lot of time onions, they make you cry when you peel them. So a good way to make sure that doesn't happen, if you get a nice breeze coming in, keeping it away from your eyes. Now it's actually a chemical compound released by the onion which makes you cry. And it's not a lot of fun, especially if you have contacts, I hear, which I don't wear, but you know. So we get it, nice diagonal cut like that. We get nice uniform dicing. Oops. is always the tough part, is the last one. But there you go.
Our recipe calls for a cup of chicken broth, but instead of using chicken broth, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my own broth using a bouillon cube. I'm going to put this cube into a cup, measuring cup. I'm going to add some warm water here. I'm going to let this dissolve a bit. And what I do now is we're going to add 1 egg and 2 tablespoons of sour cream to our normal recipe, but because we're making so much, I'm going to go ahead and triple everything. So here I have 3 eggs. I want to check for eggshell, you don't want to upset anybody. I keep my hand over the bowl with my left hand to keep it stable because I don't want to knock the bowl over. So I keep the bowl stable here and I tap lightly, creating a little crack along the edge. I want to use my thumbs to force it a little bit. When I feel a little crack, I just pull away and the egg will fall straight through here. I'm going to rinse my hands real quick. I don't want to get any of that egg yolk on myself. I might get sick. I don't want to contaminate the rest of the meal. Okay, so after I do that, I'm going to go ahead and grab my measuring spoon. Like so. Now, the regular recipe calls for 2 tablespoons. Because we're tripling this, we're going to add 6. We're not going to be too careful. In cooking, you have a little bit of a small chance to play around. Baking is a little different. When we bake, as you'll see in later episodes, we're going to be very specific and stick to the recipe as closely as possible. So that was 3. There's 4. 5. It looks kind of gross now, but once we mix it all in, it's going to be nice and creamy. And there is 6. My bouillon cube isn't quite ready yet. I'm going to let this sit another minute. And I'm going to go ahead and use a fork to mix this up. I want to break up these yolks and distribute the sour cream nice and evenly. Okay. Now at this point, my bouillon cube probably won't dissolve because the water isn't boiling. So I'm going to go ahead and add it in here. And I'll chop it up with my fork, and then once we add it to the heat of the potatoes, it's going to break up nice and evenly. Once again, I know this looks kind of gross, but once we mix it all up, it's going to be creamy and smooth. Alright, this is mixed up pretty well. I'm going to go ahead and add it to my piping hot potatoes. Now, when I was growing up, my family didn't have very many tools, cooking utensils. And so what we had to do was improvise or, kind of think fast on our feet. And so today when I was preparing for this cooking show, I thought, well, I don't have a potato masher. What I did was I just washed an old glass bottle like this. I'm going to go ahead and hold on to the top. And we're going to just mash, as you can see here. It might take a little longer, but it's a lot of fun. Now these are only half the potatoes that we're going to use. After I mix in these liquids, we're going to go ahead and add the second half of the potatoes to the top, and then we'll see how creamy or dry it is, and we'll add ingredients to taste. All right. Whoa.
So we got here our skillet getting nice and hot. We're going to cook the meat with some vegetables in it. So I had it heated up already. I'm going to put in just a little bit of olive oil. A little bit more, there we go. Now we're going to do that to keep it from sticking. Even though it is a non-stick pan, it always sticks anyway. So here we got our ground turkey. Let's put that a second more. It's really hard to get off. There we go. Okay, now that should be nice and hot. So we're going to take this here. Just make sure you don't get the paper on the bottom. You don't want that ending up in the meal. I'm going to quickly wash my hands because raw meat is a good carrier of bacteria. You don't want to cross-contaminate anything. Okay, just going to give this a mix here. Maybe turn it down just a little bit. As you can see, it's going to cook very quickly, which is good. I'm going to season it just a little bit. Some of this garlic salt right here. You know, not too much. You can always add salt later, but you can't take it away. So make sure you don't go overboard with it. Now we're going to let this brown for a few minutes, and then after that we're going to throw in the vegetables, let the onions caramelize a little bit, get some good flavors going on.
I'm going to add some garlic salt to my potatoes, and as you can see they are mashing up quite good. I have a nice yellow look to it because I actually added in one sweet potato. That's going to keep us nice and healthy. It's going to give us a sweet flavor, and it's going to give us a little more pop. Make your plate nice and colorful. And then once we add the red paprika, that's going to really give us a good color. So, speaking of healthy,
well, traditionally shepherd's pie is meat, beef or lamb, and we're using ground turkey because it's got a lot less fat in it than beef does. So, and you know what? It tastes really good too. So that's why we're using the turkey over here. Now, if you notice, it doesn't have a lot of fat in it, which is why I added the oil to it at the beginning. Most of this coming out is just water, whereas ground beef, you're going to see it would produce a lot of fat in the skillet, and you're going to probably have to drain that, whereas with this turkey, we're not going to have to do that.
it's also good to get ground turkey breast. This turkey here is just regular ground turkey, so that means it probably has some skin on it, so it's not as healthy as can be. But you know, it's a whole step above ground beef or ground lamb.
That it is.
What are you doing, Mikkel?
Well, right now I'm peeling the carrots so that I can chop them. Yeah, pretty fun, pretty fun. Well, I would say you want to peel this direction. You don't want to peel towards yourself. You might get hurt. So you don't want anyone getting hurt in the kitchen. Yeah, a lot of dangerous things, but you don't want this to be one of them.
How's the turkey going?
It's it grew actually. I don't know if you noticed last time we had a lot more turkey in here. Kind of expanded, but other than that, it's going pretty good. Just kind of still browning it, still waiting. Gonna get some veggies in here in a minute and get cracking.
Alright, so now we're going to add a little bit of this liquid seasoning. It's kind of like a soy sauce or Worcestershire sauce. And it's going to make our meat taste nice and salty and good. My friend Alan calls it liquid gold. So a little bit will do. We actually added a bit when we were off camera, so we don't want to overdo it.
You also notice here we have a lot of liquid here. Now if this was ground beef, that would be fat, but this is actually mostly just water from the turkey. So just going to let that kind of boil off, and we're almost ready for the veggies.
Alright, what we're making here today is a size for about 12 people, but this is actually a bigger portion, and we're going to show you a smaller portion of that in the screen later. What we're going to use is 6 tablespoons of butter, and we're also going to use 6 tablespoons of wheat. So all we pretty much do, get the little tablespoon, get it out, make sure it's nice and level so you get the right amount. Always got to get the right amount. Just stick it in there, just 6 is all you need. And as you do, you can kind of just play around with it, but really all in all, just stick it in there. That's 3. When I was younger, I used to make a big mess. Not that I cooked, but help Mom, I got in trouble. Anyway, 4, actually 5. There you go. 6. And there we go.
So what you're going to do with that, Victor, is you're going to bring it over here to the stove. Oh, on. Good. And we're gonna heat this up over a medium heat, okay?
Yeah.
And that's gonna be what we call a roux. It's gonna thicken up, and we're gonna make a gravy out of this. We have to be careful not to let it burn. So we're gonna get a fork over here. We're gonna stir it and stir it and stir it until we can no longer stir it. And after a while, we're gonna add some Worcestershire sauce, and it's gonna give us a nice flavor that we're gonna add to the meat. It's gonna allow the meat to thicken up, and then we're gonna lay that in a casserole, and then we're gonna put some potatoes over that and let it crisp up in the broiler.
Ooh,
okay, so if you can just stir that for us.
Yeah.
As you can see, the butter's already melting.
Uh-huh.
The first
So
thing that
it has a very, very thick kind of texture.
yeah. The first thing that happens is that the butter gets coated in this whole wheat flour, and then
Why whole wheat flour?
well, whole wheat flour is not a thicker alternative. Well, it can be thicker sometimes, but it's a healthier alternative to the white flour, bleached flour. The less processes that the flour goes through, the healthier it is for you. Right?
That is correct.
How's the meat going over there?
Wow.
It is just about done. We're almost completely browned now, and the vegetables are looking good. We're just getting ready for the gravy. Put it on the casserole, and we'll be ready to eat in a few minutes.
Great. All right, so we've transferred the meat mixture with the vegetables into a little baking dish like this. And all we're going to do now is we're going to transfer the gravy that Victor has been stirring, and we're going to just distribute that evenly throughout here. Get a nice good coat. And then we're going to go ahead and mix that into the meat and make sure it all gets covered. And what this adds is just a little more flavor because of that broth that we added into the roux and the butter. And we're going to go ahead and coat all the meat and make sure it gets around all the edges so that it's easy for the shepherd's pie to slide out once you have cut it up. Okay, so it looks like we need a little more of that gravy here. I'll go ahead and add a little more here. We'll also add some to our other dish here. And once this has all been mixed in, I want to get all those good drippings. Once this has all been mixed in, we're going to add our nice mashed potato mixture over the top and throw it into the broiler, which means that the top part of the oven is going to be on, and it's going to give us a nice golden crust. Golden, hopefully. More likely it's going to be brown and black, but that nice crispiness is going to give us some good flavor. Okay, so earlier we showed you how to mash your potatoes using an old bottle or container like this. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put this here. As you can see, it's all nice and even. There are some chunks in there, but it's always a nice surprise. So I'm going to go ahead and use the same old utensil here, and I'm just going to slap some of this potato on here. I want a nice thick coating. Okay, I'm going to slap this potato topping on. We're going to go ahead and smooth it out so that it's coating the entire top portion of the meat. Now, it's not going to be restaurant pretty, but your stomach is not going to know the difference. We're going to go here and add potato. As you can see, there's some empty spots around the edges, so I'm going to go ahead and fill those in like so. Here we go. More potato, the heartier your meal is going to be, the more full you're going to be after you eat it. Now you could either leave it like this with a nice smooth top, or you could also get a plain fork and put some grooves into it, and it kind of makes it look fancy. I put some grooves in like this. If you want to be kind of silly, you can write something into it, or you could you know, play around with different textures and different designs. This is easy enough for me. Now we've already turned our broiler on, which means our oven's going to be nice and hot. So I'm just going to pop this in here. And just keep an eye on it until it gets crispy. Sometimes it takes a little less than 5 minutes to get crispy. And as you can see, there are some layers here. You can see our meats and our vegetables and our gravy. It's going to be, oh, so nice and good.
So we're adding some paprika to it. Gives it a nice color and a very tasty flavor. So we have Phil made a little mountain here. So just gonna give some extra color and flavor. And it'll be ready to go in the broiler right after this.
All right, so I think our first batch is ready to come out of the oven here. As you can see, the top is getting brown and blackened up here. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this out onto our surface there. We're gonna add some fresh parsley to give it some color, like so. As soon as it cools down, we're gonna go ahead and serve it up, and we'll show you what the finished product looks like in just a sec. All right, so what you got at the end is a nice crispy potato. Here's your meat. Grab a little bit of each, and bon appetit.
It was delicious, absolutely scrumptious. You can't miss this. Like that?
She's hired.